If you work in education, then chances are, at some point, you have taught something to students that they found less than interesting. And at some point, you've probably heard a student say something like this. They usually make a noise like, ugh, well, we're going to learn this anyway. And if you're lucky, they'll follow it up with something like this. I ain't never going to use this in my entire life. And if you teach mathematics like I do, you probably heard it this week. And it's a fair question, but it doesn't always get a fair response. Now, the first time I heard this, I was teaching algebra in year 9, all right? And my initial instinct was to launch into a tirade about how algebra is not only an important branch of mathematics, but it's the most fundamentally important branch of mathematics that a whole civilization is dependent on, man, all right? But I didn't really convince that kid on why he had to learn it, because the best I can do in that situation is maybe inspire them and say, I have appreciation for algebra, but that doesn't really help me on why I want to learn it. So the next thing that we try, and the next thing that I usually tried at that point in my career, is we go to what is probably the most pervasive argument for why you got to learn what you got to learn. And we hear it all the time, and it's like embedded into our culture. And it goes something like this. And sometimes we're really condescending about it too. And we get down and we say like, do you want to get a good job? If you want to get a good job, then you got to go to a good school. You want to go to a good school, you got to get good grades. You want to get good grades, you got to get good math grades. You got to get good math grades, you got to do good in algebra. Done. That's why you learn algebra. And I hate this argument. I hate this argument for 2 reasons. One, it's not true. It is totally not true. This idea that the only way to success is you got to have good grades, that is one pathway. And it might be true. And I say might be true if you want to get into highly academic subjects, the medicine, the sciences, the engineering. But for the rest, do a little test. Go out and ask the most successful people you know in your life and ask them how they did in school. You're going to get a whole range. Ask them how they did in algebra, all right? And they'll say, oh, man, algebra, Ask them if they ever use it in their daily life. Never. I never used it. Never. I don't know why they teach it. Never use it, all right? And so it's wrong. I don't want to tell a kid that that is the only way to success. But more importantly, it can actually be really damaging. If you're a 14-year-old kid, indirectly, I'm telling you that this test that I just made up will determine your future. And if you buy into that reasoning, what does that look like when you're in year 12? You get increased stress, increased anxiety, depression, and actually underperformance. Because that's an enormous amount of pressure for a 17, 18-year-old who actually believes that everything in their future is totally dependent on how they do their final exams. And that's why it's damaging. So I don't use this argument. Okay, now, for those of you who are sitting back, because I can see some of my students going, I knew it! Everything we learn in school is garbage. Don't need to do it. Yeah, this guy says so. Okay? Is school not important? No, I'm not saying that. Okay? But you just got to give me a second. I'm telling you a couple of answers that we typically use as educators. And I'm telling you now why they're complete rubbish. So here's what I do now. Okay? Kid comes up to me and says, what's the point of learning this? I say, I don't know. Do you know what you're going to do in 10 years, 15 years, 20 years? They go, no. I'm like, maybe it's useful. And they're like, meh. I say, okay, then quit. They go, huh? I'm like, quit. Because that's what you're asking me. You want to quit. There's a door, man. Go quit. And they think, and they go, this is a trap, right? This guy's he's trying to trap me. I don't know how you're trying to trap me. You're trying to trap me. And some of the more cheeky ones will like close their laptop. All right, I quit. Walk out, stare you down. I'm quitting. Right? And I go, stop! Sit down, man. Because I ain't going to let you quit. All right? Because if I let you quit now, then you're just forming quitting habits. Because what I learned is when a student says, what's the point of learning this? Often what they mean is, this is hard and I don't want to do it. And that comes from because back in primary school, they might have tried really hard and then failed. Then they try again and then fail. And that gets tiring. Like if you really just struggle at mathematics, by the time 7, 8, 9, at some point you just throw your pen down, go, ugh, and you justify it by saying, you know what, it's totally useless anyway. Right? That's because they're so focused on this failing part. So what they're saying is, this is hard and I don't want to do it. Okay, but the problem is that if I let you quit now, right, then you are forming quitting habits. And you are a creature of habit. Okay? And what is to prevent you from taking that logic that this is pointless and applying it to every single subject in school. What's the point of learning about the Industrial Revolution? I got Google, right? Why do I have to learn how to write a creative essay? I'm never going to use that. Why do I have to memorize those lines for that script? I am never going to be an actor. As Homer Simpson said, why do I have to learn English? I'm never going to England. Right? And if you take that logic, if I let you quit now based on that logic, then you can apply it to everything in your life. Why do I got to make my bed? I'm just going to mess it up in the evening. Yeah, tell that to your drill sergeant. All right? Why do I have to fill out this piece of paper? I'm never going to use it. And what happens is you form these quitting habits, and those quitting habits lead to blaming habits, and I ain't going to let you quit. All right. How this works is in kind of two ways. The first way is you got to understand that I'm not here to teach you content. Albert Einstein said this. Now, he didn't live in 2018 where Google was at the fingertips, but I still think it applies today. I'm not here to teach you content, and that's surprising to a lot of students. I'm here to teach you two things. Number one is how to be a decent human being, okay? That's why I'm going to call you on your behavior. I'm going to call you on your attitude, right? I'm going to call you on how you relate to your peers. Because after you leave my class and after you leave this school, you are going to be a decent human being. And I'm going to try my darndest to make sure that you are. But number two, inside of teaching content, I am here to teach you how to learn, right? And how I teach you how to learn is through the content that I'm required to teach you. So it's not the content to me that's important. And because you take all these different subjects, you are actually unknowingly learning how to learn in a bunch of different situations. Mathematics, for example, is a really good way of teaching you to logically and analytically think your way to solutions. So I'm here to teach you how to learn. But how does this work? Okay? This works only if everyone understands that I don't care what grade you get. And you shouldn't care what grade you get, and you certainly should not care what everybody else in your class is getting. Because even if you fail, well, guess what? Successful people fail all the time. You talk to the successful people in your life, and they will have a whole range of what they got, what the grades they got in school. But what they will have in common is a whole string of failures behind them, and what they will have in common is what they do after they fail. They don't chuck their pen down and go, ugh, this is pointless. All right? Now, here's a dirty little secret. Nobody outside of school measures success by grades. All right? Employers may want a degree. They don't care about your grades. But what they do care about are your habits. It's about your attitude and your effort and your ability to solve problems. Not about the content. Because, like Einstein says, we can always look up the content at some other time. So for me, your success in my classroom is not measured by that little grade. It's by what you do before and what you do after. And that after becomes the before for the next thing. It is those habits in between those grades that are important to me. All right? So I do not care what grade you get. I want you to try, and I want you to fail, and I want you to try, and I want you to fail again. Maybe you'll hit some success along the way. That's great. But that's not the important bit to me. All right? Yes, it's going to be hard. Yes, you're not going to like it. And yes, you may never use this in your entire life. And it was for those exact reasons that I want you to learn this. So I tell my students this. I tell them, don't quit and fail because you don't see the point. I want you to try and fail. Not try to fail, but I want you to try and then fail in spite of the fact that you don't find this useful. And maybe along the way, you'll hit a little branch of success. And if you can do that, if you can follow that pattern, try, fail, hit some success along the way, then you will have a microcosm, a little bit of understanding of what it's actually going to take for you to be successful outside of school. And that, son, is why you're going to learn algebra. And if you still don't believe me after all that, I just will leave you with this. Algebra is like totally super important, okay? Thank you very much for your time.